This trial has nothing to do with law or facts. It has to do with bizarre hyperbole regarding press credentials, the Ku Klux Klan, and all editing, which is of a selective nature.
Friedman, the judge, is seemingly doing a lot of work on the side of the plaintiff. The judge wants to make this analogy. Well, let's just say we're not talking about Project Veritas, but the Ku Klux Klan.
So Paul plays this clip of Scott Fovel, who's the really bad talking guy. Scott Fovel saying, like, we stir shit, we hire mentally ill people to do shit.
No, I'm saying we have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake.
Creamer actually acknowledged that what Fovel said was wrong.
Yeah.
So that right there is damning because the piece is real. Fovel said what he said. And then Paul Kelly goes to keeps playing the video and shows the Aaron Black footage, which is Bob Creamer's employee.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
Aaron Black wanted to make it seem like it was grassroots when it was AstroTurf. So then Paul, referring to the clip, saying, it seems to me like Black is not wanting people to know about it. And Creamer's like, that's not what he said. And the video is right there.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me.
So Paul comes out in opening statements. He gets out this whiteboard, and he goes over to the whiteboard, and he rips off the first one, which is like, unpaid intern. Second one, less than 8 full days. Third, no resume. Fourth, no ID, no NDA. So therefore, there's no duty. If there's no duty, there's no wiretapping.
Right.
So there's no case.
There's zero case.
And then
he admits it.
And Creamer, under questioning by his own lawyer, says, "Yeah, we shouldn't.
We weren't rigorous enough.
We weren't rigorous enough."
Good to see you. How are you?
Nice to meet you, finally.
Jeremy Black. Very nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Works with us on our practice program.
Okay.
Angela's going to be interning with us for now until the election.
There was one moment that I'm trying to remember now because it's been a long day. But they were sitting at a restaurant, and Creamer goes, it was Hillary's idea to do all this, to put ducks in the ground.
In the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. So by God, we will give ducks on the ground. And,
so it's wow.
Don't repeat that to anybody.
Wow.
Don't repeat that to anybody.
But don't repeat that to anybody. And Paul says, do you think Secretary Clinton, you think you owed her some discretion for just blabbing about this? Do you think Clinton would be happy to know that you were repeating this? Because Creamer was trying to say that it was all open.
Yeah.
You'd said on your direct examination that everyone knew this information about the duck costumes. But would Hillary Clinton appreciate the fact that you blabbed about that in that bar to this stranger that you just met? Creamer doesn't answer the questions, and then the judge yells at Creamer.
Yeah.
But it's an effective filibuster, isn't it?
And then
But you can't. But notice how you can't filibuster in federal court.
Yeah.
No.
So finally, Creamer admits, I probably should have shown some discretion. And then, coming hot off of this thing about the slur, because you don't know who I am. And a lot of us didn't want Trump to win the election. You don't know me, sir. Implying that Paul Kelly, my lawyer, didn't want Trump to win, and he did not. Implying that Paul Kelly is a liberal, and he is. So going to Allison's testimony this afternoon, it was like she was pregnant, 8 months, and the whole part of it was about like, why did you record these people? Why did you call them targets?
Yeah.
And Allison's like, these are people that I encountered and spoke to.
Of the hour and a half
It's long for an
testimony
hour.
that he had with her, at least an hour of that was literally just this.
Back and forth.
Back and forth between different exhibits.
It was literally an exercise in sophistry
Yeah.
and mendacious innuendo.
Yeah.
Because the recording device is akin to a reporter's notebook. I mean, is he really expecting journalists? Is he really expecting a goddamn journalist not to take notes? Because that's what he's asking the witness. There was one answer which will be in the transcript eventually, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but Allison said it beautifully. She's like, I'm observing and taking notes about everything I see because something might become newsworthy unbeknownst to me, which is why I take notes about it. And there's a difference between note-taking and publishing. There's a difference between recording and publishing.
I don't just put blinders on looking for one story as a float.
Yeah.
That was it. It's all sophistry, because obviously one piece of information corroborates a third and a fourth, but unless the piece of information over here doesn't contain all of the fraud right there and right then, the whole thing's illegal, you all go to jail, do not collect $200 and lose the case. It doesn't actually make any sense.
No.
It doesn't make... They're trying to indict the very notion of journalism. This trial has nothing to do with law or facts. It has to do with bizarre hyperbole regarding press credentials, the Ku Klux Klan, and all editing, which is of a selective nature. Can someone please tell me what this case is about?
Yeah.
Exactly? Is it about breach of fiduciary duty anymore?
I don't think anyone.
Or is it about press credentials? Or is it about the Ku
whether or
Klux?
not you ask for comment.
I mean, what the hell are we talking about here?
It's insane.
I think Allison really had a great mic drop moment today.
Obviously not mentioned in the Washington Post.
Not mentioned.
That's why
in
it's
the
a hit
Washington
piece.
Post article. Exactly.
That's why it's selectively edited.
Yeah. Callie asked her what was her purpose. Gathering the facts, following the truth, informing the public.
Reporters are always on the lookout for a story, and they don't know when they'll find something that's newsworthy.
Yeah.
As justification for recording.
Yeah, he asked me a question about that. He said, why do you record everything? I said, I don't want people shouldn't put blinders on. It was like a 45-minute conversation about selective editing. I like Paul's statement about the editing that Sandler was doing and say all editing is the selective kind. What about the Ku Klux Klan? I thought that was disgraceful.
It was disgraceful.
Friedman, the judge, is seemingly doing a lot of work on the side of the plaintiff. And he is making this analogy to Paul. They're talking about Project Veritas and infiltrating and whether or not this infiltration alone caused damage. But the judge wants to make this analogy, why reputation matters, to say, well, let's just say we're not talking about Project Veritas, but the Ku Klux Klan
had infiltrated your organization. So the fact that you were associated, and then Paul Callie got up and was like, that's disgraceful, Your Honor, there's a difference.
It was a really tense moment. I mean, I was
That was disgraceful. I think that was the last question where he's like, what was your goal? And I was like, make public that which powerful people want kept hidden for the wrong reasons. That's what journalists do. The trial has nothing to do with a breach of duty or any of that business. This trial has nothing to do with law or facts. It has to do with bizarre hyperbole regarding press credentials, the Ku Klux Klan, and all editing, which is of a selective nature. Well, we just got out. Paul did his closing argument. Goldman was counting how many PV people because that's their lead.
I don't know who came and sat in front of the two that
They look like Antifa. Who was Fanny Pack guy?
And Adam Goldman left during Paul's closing argument. Left right in the beginning of it.
Talk about outcome determinative reporting. I mean, Adam Goldman is there on the New York Times dime, on Pitch's dime. Every single day we've seen him there. And he's getting paid to sit there and not do his job and not report pending the outcome of the trial. So, I mean, that's an assumption, of course, but it's a pretty safe assumption. I mean, he's not saying anything, so I think it would be a fair question to Adam Goldman.
Why did you not stay during any of the evidence?
Yeah.
He wants to leave before any of y'all can catch up with him. It makes perfect sense to me.
Courage is on trial, and it's being protected by cowards.
A news organization does not have an obligation to publish every single part of their interview with the subject. That's also common sense.
We exposed Clinton operatives fraudulently misrepresenting Trump supporters as violent by instigating violence at Trump rallies.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us.
And even saying to us, to me, to Allison, we don't want this to get out.
None of this is supposed to come back to us.
Here's the greatest irony of them all. The damning part of the tape is Trevor's clip of Aaron Black, and Trevor didn't do any infiltration. He was standing outside the building when Black said, hey, come on upstairs. And he didn't create elaborate backstories. He didn't have any donations. But that's the ultimate irony. The most damning part of the entire 16-minute video is when Aaron Black brings Trevor up into the room without asking for any information. There are no permanent victories and no permanent defeats. That's very important. And we've been through this horrible process, which has lasted 2 weeks, which is really punishing. The process has been very punishing itself, so we're feeling the effects of that process. You know, it sucks, it's a loss, it's a low point. This is an example of the process that is the punishment right here, right now. This is a sensory deprivation experience where we can't speak truth to power. I can't even say on the record what happened without being uncompliant. This is why the process is the punishment. And this is why the process itself is so damaging. I can speak about what happened just in terms of the jury instructions, yeah? Yep. They dismissed everyone except me and Allison, and the jury verdict form was returned, was unfilled in. And the instruction said, if you can't come to an agreement, don't fill it in or put 0 or whatever. The jury opted to not fill it in for damages. The judge dismissed all of you and said to us, there's some confusion because the jury has not filled in the damages. So Paul kind of let them go back and figure out what it is. They came back again, and it was not filled out again. It was 18 minutes later. It wasn't filled in for damages. And then the judge said, well, maybe I need to go back and let him fill it in. And Paul was like, no way in hell should you go back in there and fill this. Then this is a rocket science jury. They have master's degree in mathematics and physics. They didn't fill it in for a reason. Paul was vehemently objecting, and the judge looked completely convinced, turned to Sandler and said, what do you have to say? I had nothing to say, and the judge ruled against us anyway, and then told the jury to go back a third time, and that's when they filled in $120,000. And as I'm sitting there, Paul is objecting vehemently objecting.
The judge said it's one of 3 reasons that they would do that. They believe there's 0 damages to be awarded, they couldn't come to an agreement, or they didn't follow instructions.
He tried to say it was because they couldn't come to an agreement.
Well, this instruction said that you can leave it blank, and they left it blank not once, but twice, and then the judge told them to go back and keep going. So that's the judge influencing the verdict and telling them which way to go. So that's the judge effectively, as Paul stated in his objection, issuing a directed verdict for them. The judge has a right to rule on the case however he wants. He's a federal judge, an Article III federal judge. He can award judgment for the plaintiff for no reason at all. But he can be overruled and overturned. So we take our medicine, we get the negative headlines from Will Sommer and the Washington Post and all these other people, and we keep doing what we do. It's that simple. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep going. Do what we have to do.